Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video as I'm rocking the Arkansas Razorback as per usual. And of course, this will have an NCAA feeling to it. We're going to be looking at 10 college football injuries that really brought a lot of things and all that. So it was, it's hard to see like major injuries and all that. And you're trying to watch sports, you're trying not to see this and all that. So we'll have some of the biggest injuries in history and all that. So here we go. Number 10 is Johnny Knox of Abilene Christian. He played in the NFL for the Bears, among other teams, but he actually ended up having a severe back injury, which actually gave him big troubles as a professional. And in essence, that just ruined his career. And who needed that? So nobody needed that to happen. Number 9 is Inky Johnson. He had a collision for University of Tennessee in 2006, resulting in permanent nerve damage to his right arm. But his resilience was huge in the face of it, and so he decided to be, I think, a spokesperson, if I remember correctly. So that was massive and all that. Number 8 is Chuck Hughes for Texas Western, or what we call now UTEP. So Chuck Hughes was a pretty good receiver for UTEP. Well, I call him UTEP, not Texas Western. Sorry about that, but that's me. So all he does was catch balls. But unfortunately, though, he had some heart problems. And of course, medicine being the 1960s, not like it is in the 2020s, he still played football. Unfortunately, Chuck Hughes will be always remembered for being the guy who died on the field at Tiger Stadium with the Lions taking on the Bears in 1971, that he just collapsed. Fortunately, though, the TV cameras didn't catch that happening and all that. So yeah, it's akin to the whole Damar Hamlin thing that I don't think the TV cameras really caught him falling down on the field, but fortunately for him, you know, we don't have that problem. Number 7 is Mark Buicanti for the Citadel, 1985. This injury in the IAA, like this Tier 2, saw Buicanti, who was related to Nick Buicanti, former Miami Dolphins defensive player of the 70s. He ended up having a spinal cord injury, which saw him paralyzed. This would lead to advocacy and fundraising for paralysis research. So that would be very much amazing and all that, what can happen. Okay, number 6 is Adam Talavero for Penn State. He was just an ordinary run-of-the-mill player for Penn State, defensive player in 2002 when he tried to make a tackle and then bumped himself. And, people thought he was not going to walk again and all that. His father said that he's going to prove you all wrong. And so, using extensive treatment for like a year, Talavero did this job. And before the home opener the next season for Penn State, he was out there walking towards the field and even running because he just proved everyone wrong that he could walk again. And he did. He sure did. Number 5 is Bo Jackson's hip injury with Auburn, 1984. So Bo Jackson was a key running back for the University of Auburn. He was a Heisman Trophy winner and could have went to Tampa, but because of the culture of Hugh Culverhouse, the owner, being a cheapskate, Bo Jackson thought that he wasn't going to be treated well in Tampa, so he refused to play for the Bucks. He was, of course, upset because Tampa kind of ruined his chances to play college baseball. So he never forgave the organization. He went back and took a seventh round pick from the Raiders. But Jackson's hip injury actually had consequences in 1991 when he got hurt against the Bengals in the playoffs, and then he had to be carted off. And then all of a sudden, he was too injured to continue, and you know that ruined his football career. He did play baseball with the White Sox and all that. That was pretty impressive. Number 4 is Daryl Stingley for Purdue. Now, everyone knows about Daryl Stingley and how he was injured by Jack Tatum in 1978 and paralyzed during a preseason game. However, what people forget, me included, was that Stingley actually suffered a spinal cord injury while playing for Purdue in college. So he managed to get away from that. Unfortunately, though, 4 years later, he would be a total paraplegic as Jack Tatum's hit on Stingley happened. Number 3 is Tyrone Profro, 2005 Bama. So in 2005, Bama looked decent. They weren't the powerhouse they are now. Well, Profro was a pretty good player, and in 2004, he made what was called one of the greatest catches of all time when he managed to get the ball against Southern Mississippi, against the cousin of Marshall Faulk, Jasper Faulk. He managed to get it, and then he pinned it against Faulk, and then somehow flipped himself into the end zone, making a great catch. Now, contrary to popular belief, Profro's catch was not a touchdown catch. His knee was down at the 1, but still, that was an amazing catch. Later, I guess later that season, Profro would have an injury. I can't remember who it was, but in 2005, he went to catch a ball. He got slammed down. The ball was incomplete, and then his leg was huge. It was a massive leg fracture. It was devastating and just wrong. Number 2 is Eric LeGrand, 2010 Rutgers. Rutgers really wasn't a football powerhouse. And anyhow, he ended up on the field suffering a spinal cord injury that left him paralyzed from the neck down, bringing national attention to player safety and the risks of the sport, and then changing everything up, which is pretty impressive. And the number 1 college football injury of all time is Willis McGahee, 2003 Fiesta Bowl with Miami. McGahee was a great running back for the Hurricanes. They were trying to beat Ohio State to keep their 30-plus game winning streak alive. And then in the second quarter, he had a run. He got tackled hard by the Ohio State player, but then he couldn't get up. We soon learned that he tore his ACL, MCL, and PCL in his left knee. So logically, that was just terrible. Like, he tore all his ligaments in his left knee, causing a major setback before his NFL career started. It was amazing that he would do that and still play in the NFL. But it just brings a lot of things to light about this. So Miami had a good running back. McGahee would suffer through injuries throughout his NFL career, just like that. I know it's kind of a short video. Should I go ahead and now 9 minutes? Okay, you know what? Yeah, you know what? Let's just add on college basketball. We're gonna do football and basketball at the same time because there's not a lot of time. All that. So yeah, there's a lot of college basketball injuries too, and all that. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. So for college basketball, here we go. Number 10 is Derrick Rose, 2008 from Memphis. Memphis was playing hard through the NCAA tournament, and it got to the final against Kansas. Should have beaten Kansas with free throws, but Derrick Rose kept missing free throws. Mario Chalmers put up the three ball to tie the game before overtime and saw Kansas beat Memphis. And of course, thanks to Derrick Rose and the improper benefits he may have received, Memphis' second place doesn't exist because it's vacant. Anyhow, it was rumored that he was hurt, but he played through knee injuries during the NCAA tournament. He didn't want to let his team down. Chicago drafted him, and when he was healthy, he was good. But when he was not healthy, should have done much better. Number 9 is Jay Williams for Duke, 2002. Anyway, he suffered a torn ACL playing for Duke in 2002. That didn't stop Chicago from drafting him, but the fact of the matter is it ruined his career, and he became. Did he become a criminal or something? Like I think, was he the guy who was showing off his firearms and accidentally shot his chauffeur? I think that was him, but yeah, it was just a career that just was terrible and all that. Number 8 is Andrew Bogut, 2005 Utah. Utah was a strong team going through, and Bogut was a strong prospect that could do no wrong in people's eyes for the University of Utah. But unfortunately, he suffered a massive back injury and could not play much in the NCAA tournament, which was, of course, terrible because, the NCAA tournament was doing all that. So, anyway, his NBA draft status wasn't wrecked because he was still drafted first overall by Milwaukee. I keep thinking Milwaukee, but that can't be right. Yeah, yeah, that can't be right. Andrew Bogut drafted by the Bucks. I keep thinking the Milwaukee Bucks, but that can't be right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. He was drafted first overall by the Milwaukee Bucks. His later team like Golden State, he was there. But yeah, Bogut was still drafted first overall. So it didn't really hurt him too much. At number 7 is Paul George from Fresno, 2010. Paul George was a great player. Fresno State loved him, and he had recurring injuries in college. Unfortunately, that foreshadowed later struggles, including him playing in a um, exhibition match for the 2012 Olympic hopefuls, and then he managed to slam down onto the court, and like his legs just went bonk. So he took a massive tumble, and PG-13, as he was called, his career kind of took a bit of a tumble. So that's just not good. Number 6 is Ed O'Banion. Of course, video game lovers, college football and college basketball lovers, video game lovers like myself, curse him and spit because of the whole thing with ruining college football video games later and college basketball video games as well. But O'Banion arrived at UCLA in 1990, and after arriving at UCLA, he tore his ACL in practice, delaying his promising career and reshaping his legacy. Fortunately, though, O'Banion was part of the team in 1995 that won the national championship for the first time since '75 when John Wooden stepped down. He would have a not so great career in the NBA. Well, he was drafted by the Nets. People wanted him drafted by the Raptors because the Raptors have and Ed O'Banion was named the MVP of the 1995 March Madness. But Toronto went with Damon Stoudemire. The fans went bonkers. But those same fans were eating crow because Damon Stoudemire was named Rookie of the Year Anyway, O'Bannon did fine, and then he put his name on a massive lawsuit saying that all the NCAA video games with the past players, it just had the same height, weight, and all that, all the vitals without putting the name down. O'Bannon won compensation, and that led to NCAA football not having a video game between 2011, well, 2014 and 2025, and college basketball still hasn't had a video game since 2011. So yeah, that was just pure crapola on O'Bannon's part. I mean, I understand it, but people love the game and people wanted to play it. Like the EA people should have just randomized everything and all that, and allow like open editing and all that. College football doesn't even let you do that anymore, which is pissing me off. Number 5 is Sam Bowie for Kentucky in the 1980s. Sam Bowie, of course, everyone knows about him being drafted ahead of Michael Jordan and all that. He was second overall in 1984 behind Hakeem Olajuwon, and Sam Bowie went second, and then MJ went third to Chicago. Everyone knows that. But the problem here is that, in the 1980s, Sam Bowie was a good center for Kentucky. Unfortunately, he went through a lot of injuries to his legs and all that. He was tall, his legs just had some problems to it. He had fasciitis, plantar fasciitis. He had ligament tears. They they said that Bowie's injuries was akin to injuries suffered in male ballet dancers. So the chronic injuries would take a massive toll on Sam Bowie's career, and Portland decided to draft him. A lot of people say, why would they draft Bowie ahead of Jordan? But there were many reasons. ESPN used to do the show called Top 5 Reasons You Can't Blame, and one of them was about Portland drafting Sam Bowie. And one of the reasons you don't blame is because they needed a powerful center, because a powerful center, it was the anchor to a championship team like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all that. And also, MJ was given less minutes by Dean Smith because he didn't want people to know their full potential. No way. Yeah, that's way. Anyway, speaking of Bill Walton and the Trailblazers, that's number 4 on this list. Bill Walton's chronic injuries. Everyone knows about Bill Walton in his prime as a pro, helping Portland win the championship, and then, of course, him missing a few seasons with injuries with Portland, the Clippers, and the Celtics. Well, there was a precursor in UCLA. By the time he graduated in 1974, he still had chronic foot injuries and ankle injuries. It plagued Walton at his peak in college, although he got lucky that Portland drafted him and he led them to an NBA title. It could have all gone for shit and all that. Yeah, Bill Walton missed a few full seasons. One might have been if he was healthy. Number 3 is Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin broke his leg in the Conference USA tournament in 2000 for Cincy. He was a star. Everyone thought he was going to be big, the number 1 draft pick for the Bearcats, and Cincy looked good in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, though, Kenyon broke his leg. I can't remember who he faced, but yeah, it ended his college career, Cincy's championship hopes, and it was bad. He was still drafted first overall by the Nets and was decent when he was healthy. Number 2 is Len Bias. Maryland 1986. So what happens with Len Bias is that he was a pretty good player and all that. He was a star in the ACC for Maryland, even though they didn't get far in the NCAA tournament. So there was a problem. Bias had problems and all that. He was still good enough. He was good enough that Boston, after making a trade with, I forget who they traded with. Well, they had the second pick. Cleveland had the number 1 pick and took Brad Daugherty from North Carolina. His career would be injury prone too. But Boston was up second and managed to pick up the pick and decided to go for Len Bias. And it was perfect. Len Bias was going to be a Celtics icon that would carry the torch once Bird faded. Unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to do that. It was just the 48-hour rule, if you will. 48 hours after Bias was drafted, he was dead. He had a sneaker contract and then celebrated with friends by doing cocaine in the Maryland student housing and all that. So anyhow, Len Bias just died and all that. It was just terrible. And Bias would not have known how bad the cocaine epidemic was. Everyone freaked out over cocaine. They arrested people for minor possession, before the rules were changed. And, it kind of was racially motivated, I guess. But yeah, drugs would ruin that. Drugs would also ruin UCLA defensive back Don Rogers, who was drafted by Cleveland, and he didn't get into the NFL. So that was big. And it ruined Maryland because soon Maryland was investigated, not just for the cocaine thing, but for academic problems. And Lefty Drysdale had to leave the University of Maryland. Number one, Kevin Ware, Louisville 2013. I think it was Louisville, Michigan, wasn't it? Or it was, I can't remember who Louisville faced in the Elite Eight, 2013. You're watching on TV, you see Kevin Ware go up for a shot, miss it, and then fall backwards. What you didn't see, well, if you weren't really paying attention to the game, thank goodness. But if you were paying attention to the game, get ready for the barf bags. Because he suffered a gruesome open leg fracture during the NCAA tournament, which just shocked viewers and inspired his team to rally. And you could see the leg fracture, and it was just like unbelievable. Get the garbage can, puke in the garbage can. Well, Louisville did win the national title game in 2013 for Kevin Ware. Ware came back a couple years later to try to pick up his basketball career, if you will. Of course, that title is tainted because Louisville got in trouble for those solicitation rumors, and they had to give back the 2013 NCAA title. But I mean, can't deny it. I mean, Kevin Ware's an icon. They wanted for him. They really did. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond at 2.